Get connected, Fitchburg. Sign up for Fitchburg Connect, the city's monthly e-newsletter that keeps you informed about all the events, services, and updates that matter to you. Get it in your inbox once a month. Sign up today to get Fitchburg Connect.
Hi, I'm Jeremy Crosby.
And I'm Nick Boucher. We're your hosts for the program that's all about your city, Talking Fitchburg.
Every weekday, we pull together the news, events, and information you need to stay on top of what's happening in the city of Fitchburg.
Find Talking Fitchburg on cable TV, Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, and our live stream on the web. Plus, you can find all our headlines and stories on Facebook, YouTube, and our video on demand service. This is your city.
Keep up with Talking Fitchburg and the issues affecting you and your neighbors.
We all ready? All right, it is 6:01, so we will call this meeting to order. Let's see, what is the March 5th edition Fitchburg Parks Commission at 6:01. So to start with, we have approval of the minutes for February, for last month, for February. Before we move on that, we do have a citizen registered to speak. Patrick Cheney from Tarpley Hills. Coming up, Patrick.
So there's two versions of the minutes of the February meeting. The better one is in your packet because the other one that is actually posted with the line for the February meetings, that one is not as good. This one here is better because it has members present, and then it lists the specific members of the Park Commission, which I think is the better way to do this, and then other people, whether they're presenters or commenters or whoever, are listed as others present, including city staff. And I think that distinguishes who are the actual members who count towards a quorum, who are eligible to vote. So that's specifically the residents appointed and the alder who is assigned to this, the 7 people who count that way. And for the casual reader who looks at the minutes, that helps a lot to see, okay, how many were there, and you start counting votes or such like this. Otherwise, the other version, the previous version, and the one that's listed actually on the line for the February minutes just has everybody together, and then how do you know who's a member and who's not? This commission does not take a roll at the beginning or announce if there's a quorum like the council does. You just kind of look around and count, and yeah, we're ready to go. So this is better to have it members present. Now, some other things that I see in here that I want to go through. On number 4, adoption of the agenda, which is typically standardly called review and approve the agenda, and it says that in this tonight's agenda again. Some different wording used there. This does not mention or note if this passed or not. And then in number 5D, a resolution, and there's a motion to amend. It does not say if it passed or not. And then another motion to approve the resolution. It does not say if it passed or not. Also in 5D, it lists public comments, and 2 people spoke on that. And then back to 5A, a different topic, it lists public comments, and 3 people talked on that. So the odd thing about others present, back at the top there again, it lists those 2 people who were in favor of that resolution, but it doesn't list the 3 of the public who spoke for either opposed and or changes to that. And it just looks like, on face value, it looks like there's some bias against people who are for something get listed, and people who are opposed to something or whatever didn't get listed. So that's not real good. So if this is corrected, I marked my registration slip as opposed unless corrected. So that is what I'm pointing out to you. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Patrick. Any commissioners want to make comments or a motion on the minutes of February?
All motion to approve.
Heidi makes the motion. Do I have a second?
Second motion.
Second by Alder Herbst.
I had some edits also that I noticed that I wanted to mention.
Go ahead.
I had the motion carried that was missed in item 4. And then in 5A, Linda Brewer is listed, Tree Advisory Committee. She's a former chair, she's not the chair, so the word chair after the words Tree Advisory Committee, chair should be removed. And I had seen the areas where in D that the motion, both motions that it should say approved for both of those. And then the numbers seem to be repeated. So there's item 5 is discussion and action items, but then following that is communication. That's also called item 5. So that should be 6, 7, and 8. For 5, 6, 7 should be 6, 7, 8. And I can give my papers here to our parks manager. I want to ask Patrick, you may have said something else that I'm not noting here about people being not listed if they spoke in opposition, or I wasn't following what you were saying there. Do you mind telling me?
Pointing out is there are 2 people who are listed as public comment and then those 2 names, and they are listed in others present.
Is this in item 5? In 5?
Well, that was out of 5, yes, 5D.
Okay, 5D.
5T, public comments, 2 people spoke, and they were in favor.
Okay.
As compared to number 5A, where public comments, 3 people spoke, they were either opposed or wanted changes, and they're not listed, which is just kind of odd.
Aren't they listed? I see them listed.
As others present at the top. You will see the 2 names.
No, I'm sorry. I printed these before I left, just because I have a hard time going to the screen and back and forth with minutes. In 5, under 5A,
Yeah.
it says public comments.
Public comments, 3 people are
Yeah,
named.
Patrick Cheney, Elizabeth Thompson, Nancy
Right,
Halford.
who spoke either for opposed or wanted changes.
But
Okay.
they had public comment. And it's the same in either. They're not saying whether they were
That's
for.
actually my point. Both of these, 5A and 5D, say public comments and then list names of people who filled out the registration slip. They took the time to come here to speak and everything. 2 of them are listed as others present. The other 3 are not listed as others present. And I want to make a point that, as far as others present, I would think that if the mayor right here is present or any of the alders, elected officials are present, you probably should note them whether they talk or not to make a record that, hey, they were at your meeting, they came, they were present.
Okay, now we're getting deeper in the weeds.
Okay, I think it seems like everyone is at least listed consistently on the minutes, so.
But not for others present at the top.
I don't even see others present.
It's in call to order, number 1.
Yep, I see the list.
Members present is the actual commission members. Others present is everybody else, including, some of the public speakers, but not all of the public speakers, so it's odd.
Okay.
But those others present were there specifically for agenda items as representatives of the agenda items. So
3 people were there for their agenda items.
All right,
as well.
let's wrap this up. I have no issues with the way the agenda is written, the way that members present are listed in here. So, Sue, if you wouldn't mind giving your edits, the more contextually important ones, to Eric.
I shall.
We can edit them as such. Alder Herbst, are you okay with?
I'm fine with amending the minutes to reflect Sue yesterday's changes.
All right, wonderful.
Corrections.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Public appearances for non-agenda items. Are there any? Not seeing any. All right. We'll move on to review and approve the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda as written?
I move approval.
Second?
Second.
We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? All right, thank you. Agenda's approved as written. So before we move into our discussion and action items, I'll just note that Christopher Pereiro was unable to attend today. He did let us know ahead of time, and he did provide input on these items. So I will, as we move through them, I'll just read what his thoughts were. So with that, let's move into item 5A. We do have Phil Sveum online available to answer questions. So should we have any questions, we can reach out to him. Before we make a motion to approve the final plat, this is for the No Oaks Ranch. Eric, any background information you want to give us?
Yep, so nothing has changed in regards to the parkland dedication that's proposed for this property since review of the preliminary plat in December. There has been some changes for the overall plats of the neighborhood, but not as they pertain to what was initially for the parkland dedication. I do want to note that one of the documents that we did review at that meeting that was completed was the tree summary as well as the tree protection policy within there, where there was an initial investigation on what tree species were being proposed within that property. But other than that, any other questions, by all means, let myself know or Phil.
You said the park parcels did not change?
No, there's been no changes since what was reviewed from the Parks Commission in December from the preliminary plat.
All right, thank you. Does anybody want to make a motion to approve the final plat?
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
Motion is second. Any other discussion or questions?
Just a question that I have. This is Heidi. And I don't even know if it pertains to this specific agenda item, but I guess it was about 2 years ago we talked about perhaps changing the rate that we sell acreage to developments. And I'm just wondering if that has gotten any traction or if there's been any further discussion on that.
I wouldn't be able to verify it. I have to talk with Deanna, our planning and zoning administrator, for that. From my understanding, no, but I would seek further clarification from Deanna on it.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Chris, I just have a point of clarity. I think I've discussed it with you briefly. Since this is a smart code and zoning effort, is this reviewed by the planning board before we get it so that it meets all the appropriate smart code percentages based on whatever transect area these areas are set up for? I think it's T3 and T4. There's certain percentages for civic space that has to be met according to the Smart Code Chapter 23 document. Mm-hmm. And in that document, it states that you have to list where you're going to put these civic spaces, and that they have to be within a certain distance from homes and so on. So I guess my long-winded question is, did somebody from planning review this document to make sure that it adheres to all the smart code stuff that's relevant to parks?
Yes, it's been reviewed by our planning and zoning staff. Phil, if you want to go into any other further detail or clarification on that. Check your mic, Phil.
Oh. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, we've been working back and forth with Deanna for probably 18 months. And I think her overview was done very well. I mean, it reflects all of the conditions and things that we've been discussing, and it does meet, and to answer that question, it does meet all the park requirements relating to smart code, including distances from homes, et cetera. So yeah, we've been continuing to work with Deanna on all of that, as well as Public Works and Eric with Parks. So
There's, excuse me, I got a cold here today, so bear with me. There's supposed to be a regulating plan that's attached to it that actually defines specifically and that actually shows where the proximity is, and I'm not sure if I saw in the 128 pages or the 30 pages of documents that I got thrown at me, so I was trying to figure out, okay, what am I supposed to look at here relative to whether you met the Chapter 23 requirements of Smart Code for civic spaces?
That would have been part of the Article 3 that was completed and approved. There was the creation of circumferences, distances around the map that reflected that in order to meet Smart Code requirements. That should be, I don't know if it was in your packet or what, but Planning Department certainly has a copy of the Article 3 for No Oaks Ranch.
I don't think it's in our, I didn't see it in our pack, but that.
Yeah, I don't recall seeing it either, but I'm sure we could get that from planning if you wanted to review it. But
Yeah, I mean, one question, the basic question is, does it meet the 5% requirement, right, for civic space for the total acreage? There's 29 acres in the first phase of this project of an 88-acre subdivision.
yeah.
So
yeah,
the percentages should be listed based on whatever the transect is, and then those proximity calculations should be in that regulating plan as per Chapter 23 of the Smart Code.
Yeah, I would assume that if there were any areas that were deficient or didn't apply, staff would make note of that as it's being presented to any approving bodies. So then, if they had the ability to make an exception, they could. But I think that we're able to assume that it meets all requirements unless staff has stated otherwise.
Correct. I wasn't notified by Deanna that it didn't apply to these or that it didn't qualify. So it would if you're seeing it at this meeting. So
Okay.
I have no particular comments of my own. I'll just add that Christopher Peguero said that there's a comment in there about changing lots 1 and 2 to T5, which would require lots 1 and 2 to be combined to allow for more intense urban development. He was supportive of that comment, but had no other input. So are there any other comments or questions on item 5A? Oh, Sue, go ahead.
I have a comment, and I'm in favor of approving this motion. Just in general, when new areas come into the park system, that we add work for the parks and public works staff, and we are not increasing the amount of staff to manage them. And in an area like this that has a wooded area designated in part as the park, in our meeting in December when we saw the first plat, that had the tree survey in it, and at the very end of it were the photographs of the park area. And you can see the trees, and you can see all the invasive honeysuckle surrounding the trees. And that's not an indictment of the developer. I don't mean it that way at all. But it's just to note that we will have a park with trees, and the trees will be surrounded by invasive shrubs that are not good for the survival of the trees. So we have to think about how do we deal with that when we don't have funding for it. That's all.
Any other comment? All right, the motion is on the table. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, thank you, Phil. All right, item 5B is resolution R4726, and this is amending the 2026 fee schedule related to pickleball court fees. We have a handful of citizen registration forms here, so I will just go in the order they were given to me. Let's see, we have Mayor Aratafrada wishing to speak in support.
One minute for you.
1 minute. Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity. So I am here because I was very involved with this resolution, and I want to explain why. When we put together our rental fees, or all our fee for the city, we do it when we do the annual budget in November. At the end of the 500 pages of our budget, there are several pages with a lot of fees, and we have the park fees. And I think it was an oversight when we increased this fee so significantly, especially for non-resident, from $15 to $30 per hour. So this is something that I want to fix for several reasons. One, because if we compare our fees to other municipalities, our fees are significantly higher. Second, we have a couple of tournaments moving forward, because of those two tournaments that are coming and forward. It was brought to our attention that, hey, by the way, there is a significant increase in fee compared to last year. So that one, it was one of the reasons that we start looking at our fees and compare with different municipalities around the county. And I directed the staff to keep the 2025 rental fees for resident and non-resident, to keep the same value for 2026 and create a new tournament rental fee similar to Sun Prairie for resident and non-resident. Because you remember that last year we invested a lot of money to install the light in the pickleball to attract more tournaments. And this is the idea that more people play this sport. I think we need to, if we want more people to play, we need to make this rent more affordable for anyone. So I am here to ask you to support this resolution. I received one of the organizations that are planning to bring a tournament is Journey Mental Health Center. They sent a letter in support of this resolution. So, and I think if we look at this with an equity lens and we want to bring more people more neighbors to play the sport, to learn how to play the sport, we need to make our rental fee more accessible. So, and I think establishing a tournament fee is, I think is a good idea. We can rent our 12 courts for 1 or 2 days and affordable rates comparable to other municipalities. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. First off, I have Angela Kinderman on Zoom.
Hi, everyone.
Angela, for you, and then all the other folks, I'll just, as a reminder, we ask people to stick to 3 minutes or less if you can, and we do have a good number of people tonight, so that would be much appreciated if possible. So, thank you. Sorry to interrupt you, but
worries.
Carry on.
No worries. I just wanted to echo Julia's sentiments. I appreciate you reconsidering the park fees to keep them more in line and competitive with other municipalities. As everybody knows, we have expanded the courts. We have a real asset now in Fitchburg with the McGaw pickleball courts. We are one of the few communities that have 12 courts in one location. And keeping the fees competitive in comparison with other municipalities, especially in our first and the next few years of operation, it gives us, our tourism entity in the community, time to build relationships with all of those tournament organizers. Make them feel really welcome in our community, support them where they can, especially nonprofits. It really helps us get those relationships established with the tournament organizers. And, then moving forward, certainly, obviously fees increase, that's what happens. But the more competitive we can be, or at least in line with other municipalities in Dane County, it really helps us do the work of the tourism department. And of course, obviously, residents, appreciate it too. So that's just my plug. And if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to stick around.
All right. Thank you very much. Next up, we have Dan Shetler wishing to speak in support of item 5B.
right, I've come here in exchange for my wife who is vacationing in Florida, and she is having a good time there. She's prepared a statement. I'm just going to read it, if that's all right. I have copies if anybody needs it. So we are supporting the proposal to revise the pickleball court fees in 2026. There's several reasons for this. Number one, McGaw will become the most expensive courts in the area by 30%. The city has provided a document that provides the data to support this. Most pickleball is played in 2-hour increments, so residents would pay at $30 per session. Non-residents would be $60 a session. This makes McGaw Park the most expensive option of any pickleball venue. Even indoor courts offer a less expensive option at $22 to $24. So that's a big difference. Rental groups like CAPA, that's our Capital Area Pickleball Association, the 2,000 member kind of governing body, that's not exactly it, but run leagues across the area. In conversations with them, it is likely that they will not offer leagues or skills and drills clinics at McGaw due to the extremely high cost to play there. They've already started running skills and drills. They do them indoors in the regular part of the year in Wisconsin, but outside they're a very good moneymaker, and they're free to the public, so it is something that people like to have. Kappa pays for them, but they're very popular. They typically rent 4 courts for 2 hours or at least 3 times a week across the summer. Skills and drills are held less frequently for 2 hours over 4 courts. Losing Kappa rentals will result in a loss of revenue of approximately $4,500. That's just on last year's numbers. The city and council hope to see increased tournaments at the courts to generate revenue, among other reasons. We want tournaments to be there. We want it to be a destination place for the pickleball community. They're beautiful courts with the lights going in. They just started putting them in this week, and the 4 new courts. It is really quite a special place. Impact, that's our local volunteer group, has committed to achieving this goal. Last year, there was 1 tournament held for a nonprofit that was for the Yahara House. They would like to return, but cannot afford the almost $1,000 court rental fees. These fees are double what other communities are charging for the tournaments. Another nonprofit, University of Wisconsin Initiative to End Alzheimer's, would also like to utilize McGaw Park, but has the same concern about fees. This is double the rates of other quality courts in the area. Eric has confirmed this. We're afraid that if we have those fees, we're going to lose both of those tournaments. Those are wonderful nonprofit organizations that we all can relate to, all of those, and we'd hate to lose that. Impact has developed a reputation for quality events held at the courts. You could tell my wife wrote that because she runs the events. Impact has developed a reputation for quality events held at the court, so they specifically asked us to run these events. We are all residents and would like to provide these tournaments on our home courts. It is important to note that if these tournaments select other venues, it is extremely unlikely they will come back to McGaw in the future. They're probably talking about going to Sun Prairie if we don't do them at McGaw. We appreciate the city's concern about revising fees after the initial approval. We have several responses to that. The fees were not shared with Impact prior to passing the revised fees. They were not discussed with us, and we could have shared the data and we had regarding fees at that time. Eric reviewed these as well as part of the proposal, and his data supports this. We're not sure about how much we would lose, but it would be considerable. For 2026, the courts would see a loss and projected revenue of at least $6,000. That was Kappa rentals, public rentals, and the 2 tournaments. Seeing that loss in revenue provides another reason to return fees to the 2025 level. We hope that if the city wants to expand tournaments and rentals at McGaw, they will work with Impact proactively so this type of situation can be avoided in the future. We're all volunteers who simply want to maximize the opportunities at McGaw. We hope this information further supports the proposal, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Dan. Let's see, we also have Steve Streck of Barrington Hills Court, registered to speak in support.
Hello.
Hello.
I am a Fitchburg resident and on the committee with the McGaw Pickleball Advisory Committee with the people sitting behind me here. I just wanted to emphasize a couple things that Dan talked about and Angela talked about. Actually, these tournaments are a big deal. It generates a lot of interest in pickleball, gets a lot of people watching on the weekends of the tournaments and that sort of thing. And if the fees aren't reduced, there's so much less in other municipalities that they just won't come here. They won't do it. And when the city put lights at the park, I mean, the thought was that we would that would help facilitate tournaments, but with the fees, it's just not going to happen, unfortunately. The other thing is, Dan mentioned the CAPA. I don't know if you know what CAPA is, Capital Area Pickleball Association. They have skills and drills clinics, they call them. And I actually, last year I taught several of them. And we had several at McGaw Park. We had, I don't know, maybe a dozen. And I don't know how they're going to do it this year, but CAPA sponsors them. They're done by volunteers that do it for nothing. Fitchburg residents were given the first shot at signing up for these. And if we have 3 courts of people, there's 12 people, and there's always 10 people on the waiting list. They're always full, and people really want to do these clinics. If these fees stay the way they are, CAPA has said that they're probably not going to have the clinics here in McGaw, which would be really too bad, because a lot of Fitchburg residents, I think, really like to do that. So I just wanted to emphasize that, and that's all I had to say.
Thank you very much. We also have Patrick Cheney of Tarpon Hills. Patrick, did you still wish to speak? All right, come on up.
I did not register as support or opposed to either one of these fees, either the higher or keeping it the same as last year. But I did do some research and talk with some people, and there's some things I want to point out to the Park Commission. For one thing, does this cover all pickleball courts? Does it include the dedicated, I believe, pickleball court, the brand new one in Chicory Meadow, or the dual stripe one in Swan Creek? And the chart right here does not equate to the hourly rate, because if you see on there, Oregon is at the 2-hour rate, $10 for 2 hours, that's $5 an hour. But Mount Horeb is on a half-hour rate, $10 for a half hour. That's $20 per hour. That is the highest one in the area, not Fitchburg, even at a higher rate for us. The tennis court rates, such as McKee, or I guess tennis courts everywhere, have also been raised, as I understand. I talked with the people in the rec office. So they're at this new higher rate. Are they going to show up at the next meeting here and say, well, lower ours too? The baseball people will be next. What are you going to do about that? These courts in McGaw Park have over $1 million invested in them. I forget how much those lights are, but they took it over $1 million. And so, yeah, these are premium courts. And there's nothing on here that even considers anything about lights. Just a wild suggestion. If a reservation is requested for after sunset, why don't you ask them for $1 extra to pay for the lights? Are they going to say no? I think overall, further discussion is overall on this is advised, as it mentions in the referral sheet. And then there was another comment there about McGaw has 12 courts equal to Sun Prairie. Not really. McGaw has 14 courts, but due to our deputy administrator deciding that they were unsafe and not just letting residents decide for themselves if it's safe to play on those courts, the nets were removed. Now, I will raise my comments again that I've made before, that the 2 courts in McGaw, they're in the same park. That makes 14 courts in McGaw. That's more than anybody else anywhere if you want to advertise that. And those 2 courts could be used for open play, warm-up, practice, whatever you want. Maybe no fee charged on those. They're currently dual stripe for tennis and pickleball. And so they could be part of the tournament too. It's a 5-minute walk across the park. It's in the same park. 14 courts in one park. There's 3 options I see as far as that. One is fix them, and then they're perfectly good like they were. Second would be put an advisory sign up, put the nets back up, and then put the sign that says, surface may be rough, use at your own risk. Problem solved. And the third is do nothing, don't take them out to preserve future options. If you take them out, they're gone for good. 14 courts there.
Yeah. All right, thank you, Patrick. And we have two other residents not wishing to speak, but just registering both in support of the resolution, and that is in opposition to the rate increase. So we have Deb, I'm sorry if my eyes are not working for me, but we have Deb and Pam. Pam Trench and Deb something. I'm sorry, Deb Hamilton. Okay, thank you. I've recently discovered I need reading glasses, which I don't have with me, so. Okay. All right, thank you for everybody for all of your input. So staff, any background information you want to give us before we take a motion?
I think a lot of it has been covered. I can clarify in a few options if you have additional questions. Julia introduced it very well. There was public responses due to the 2026 fees. So Julia recommended pursuing a resolution to change and revert back to the 2025 fees. The one new thing I do want to put emphasis on as well is the tournament fee. This is new. We did not previously have a tournament fee in the city of Fitchburg. It was proposed and mirroring the Sun Prairie Athletic Center reservation fee for tournaments. So, all
right. Thanks, Eric. Alder Herbst?
Eric, question for you. It's the court fee to reserve it, but walk down there early in the morning, no one's there, you play for free, am I correct?
Correct, it's for open play.
It's
open play. Now, if you do reserve it and pay for it, that would be your designated court to use. So if you want to go there anytime that it's not reserved, you have the ability to do so for open play. I do want to clarify with the tournament fee, that tournament fee is for the reservation of the full facility being 12 courts.
Second question, have we considered waiving the tournament fee for nonprofit? And I would temper that with saying we're only going to accept a certain number of nonprofits. You know, I don't want the courts taken up. You know, people can't play on the weekends if there's a tournament every weekend. You know, have we considered waiving it for nonprofits?
It hasn't been discussed at this point. I believe that would be the opportunity when they actually apply for the facility. At that point, could be discussed with our recreation department. I do know that there are other communities that do waive for nonprofit organizations, but we haven't yet discussed that here. That's not included within this resolution. So I think it would be an area that we could further discover, but I think it would be done at the application stages prior to payment for the actual reservation.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Does anybody want to make a motion for our?
It looked like
Angela
had a comment.
had her hand up.
I'm sorry. I didn't see that. Go ahead.
Sorry, I wasn't sure of the protocol. Just to give people a comfort, I appreciate you guys reconsidering here. And to answer Dave's concern, I think, Dave, if we do go with the resolution as it is, that helping nonprofits is where the chamber can come in and maybe help them with a sponsorship or two to offset. So that way the city is still receiving the fees for the courts. And according to the pickleball players in Fitchburg, those were reasonable fees. And so the city still receives the fees. We build a relationship with the nonprofits to make them feel welcome in Fitchburg, and hopefully can, provide some sponsorship to make their tournament revenue worthy, and they are repeat customers. So that's kind of why we're here, to be that partner. So I hope that gives you a little bit more comfort level.
As they say in German,
making those nonprofit.
As they say in German, das geht. It works for me. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Angela. Now, does anybody want to make a motion? Anybody at all?
Well, I'll move approval,
I'll second that motion.
then we discuss.
Now we can discuss further. Heidi, go ahead.
Well, I kind of ride the fence on this one here, because I tend to agree with Patrick. I feel like we're opening Pandora's box here. Once we do this for one group of athletes, why would we not do it for everybody? I mean, I guess too, I really question whether the pickleballers that live in Fitchburg are going to drive all the way to Sun Prairie, over the fee schedule, considering how much of the tax dollars that we've already sunk into these incredible pickleball courts. So I guess I'm just kind of riding the fence here, why we would give special treatment to one group of fees and not to every group of fees. That's just kind of what I'm struggling with here.
Thanks, Heidi. think I saw Aaron first. One more.
One more.
There you go.
I was surprised to see that the rates increased 50% and 100% respectively. And so this concern that we may have other shelter fees, people wanting those fees reduced, my question would be, have those also increased 150% or 100% and 50% respectively? If that's the case, then I think we should have discussions about that. But on this measure as is, it's shocking to me, and so I'm in favor of the reduced rates.
Eric, I'm going to ask you this question. It's not fair because you weren't here, but do we collect any non-resident fees? Talking with Patrick Cheney, I think we think only resident fees are collected.
Right.
I had a resident contact me with that question. I used Chad Siegel, our recreation coordinator, for a little bit of information just because he oversees the collection of the fees. He didn't have the data for what non-resident versus resident collected fees were, just the overall fees. So I don't believe we've collected at that point. So I don't think we have that information available right now.
I suspect you'll find you don't have many non-residents, almost zero.
The other thing that we need to improve is the way we are booking this court. Our system is not friendly. And I would say most of the time the people, because it happened to me several times that I want to pay for the, book a court, because in summertime there are a lot of people. So if you don't book your court, sometimes you can go there and wait maybe for 1 or 2 hours to wait for someone to free up a court. So it was is the system that currently we have in recreation is not friendly. I think something that in the future we need to, as a city, we need to investigate and explore other software for registration. And I will assume that most of the people sometimes they try to register and book a court, but it's not so friendly, and then you don't pay. I would say the majority of the time, our residents are not paying to play. I think it's getting more, even for the tennis court in McKee. I think we need to improve the system where, when the demand for the court increase, especially in summer, and this is something that I will try to explore this year, about what are the other software for registration out there that can make it easier, to register. So.
I guess my fundamental question is, why the fees were raised in the first place, right? Was there some budget number that needed to be touched, or some number? I mean, so there has to be some rationale, right, that somebody increased the number from 15.
Can I explain you why? It was an oversight. At the end of the year, and this is what happened. I don't know, last year when the director of park came before, when he was working on the budget for the department, he also brought to you the fees, the structure. I don't know, but this is part of your department or your commission to review not only the project, the initiative that they are coming, also the revision of the fee. So usually, if you look at our budget, at the end of the budget, there are like pages of pages with a lot of rentals, fee from shelter, basketball, baseball, would you name it, okay? And all our permit fee and everything that we charge in other departments, like the public works, planning, blah, blah, blah. So, and I think it was an oversight that when we put together the budget, when we went through that, and at the end of the day, the budget is my responsibility, so it was my oversight.
Okay, so it was a mistake, essentially.
Exactly, yes, and I take responsibility.
I guess my other comment would be, at least in reference to, I think one person brought up the idea of a clinic. I suppose you could create a separate fee for clinics that would be less to encourage more clinics to be brought to these courts. I guess the other question I have is just, how much revenue, well, we're talking 2 tournaments here, right now. So the impact on revenue, so if you do the math, right, there's 12 courts or 14, depending who you want to argue with. You're talking 12 courts or 14 courts times 4 people are playing in each court. Am I correct? Yes. That's correct? Okay, and so do the math, right? So in 1 hour, if you had those courts fully used, which we hope they're going to be fully used now that we have lights. So the question is, from our perspective, in the Parks Commission, we're also concerned about creating the revenues to support the maintenance side of it. There could be damage. Somebody could come into we can't always, be sure who's going to rent our courts out and whether they're going to be respectful of the courts, right? They could trash the place. So we've got to make sure that we cover additional fees that our Parks Commission or Parks staff may end up having to assume if we, in fact, encourage additional players to come there. So I guess I just want to make sure we're touching all our bases here before we decide that we're going to do whatever it is that we've decided we're going to do.
Yes, I want to tell you what else. So when we build this park, we are not in the business to profit for our asset, okay? We are not in the business to profit from our parks, okay? So this is the way I look at this, okay? And also, all of you, your residents here, you are paying your property taxes. They are also include funding to maintain all the property and asset that the city has. Mm-hmm. And every year when we put together every department budget, there is a line that is called repair maintenance. And in the park department is one line about the for repair, maintenance of every court, you name it, baseball, tennis, we are already allocating funding for that. It will be great, yes, like you say, to have this extra revenue to cover for the light, to cover for, if we need to replace the net or buy, all of that, yes. Yeah, that topic is different, okay, the staffing. Because you have to remember that if you want to have an idea, hiring a new staff, I would say like a park level, with all the full benefit, is going to cost more than $100,000 a year, So, but the other thing is, we need to, we need to think about that. I don't think that we are in the business to profit for our parks, because it's a benefit that we are providing to our residents.
I wasn't inferring that we would profit from them. I was stating that we should at least cover whatever our anticipated costs might be.
Yeah.
If we have tournaments, there will be things that will occur. People are not always going to be wonderful. And so Eric and his staff has to go over there and deal with that.
Yeah, and this is why we are charging, this is why my resolution brings forward and a rental fee for tournament where we can cover, cleaning, the garbage, go on the next day and clean the court, all of that stuff.
Okay, so that's in the budget. You've looked at that and you're happy with that number relative to what revenue you're going to get from these rentals?
I don't know anticipated revenue for 2026 because we don't have any reservations up to this point.
The only reason why I bring this up is because we do so many times we bring new things into the parks, and then we don't think about what the overall costs are going to be.
Yeah, we think about during the budget process. You can go and look at the 2026 budget, look at the parks department, and you will see all the things that we budget from our parks.
Right. Yeah. Well, now we're changing the numbers, right, a little bit. So, I wasn't here, or I don't remember Scott Endel making this change or even bringing this to us. So
I want to tell you because I put together the budget and I work months in working with the finance director and our admin team here to work in the budget. And those 500 pages of budget, I know it by one page to the other one. But I want to tell you, we allocate funding to repairs and maintenance and supplies for the parks and everything. Yeah.
Okay. That's my question.
You had a question?
Yeah, and I think everything that's in the resolution is logical, but I also see that the staff, excuse me, I gotta just grab this thing here. In the referral document, that the staff is comfortable with the fees as directed by the mayor, but has concerns by amending it outside the normal budget process. But we understand why. That's why we're here now, we're talking about that. But if the fees are reduced for pickleball, all the other groups may also request fee reductions. And that's not something you can control from the pickleball group, but I don't know how staff's going to manage telling every other group, well, you can't, you're not going to get your fee reduction, but pickleball did. So that's just an issue to deal with. And just a couple of things I wanted to just note is as pickleball tournaments are scheduled, I do hope the staff is coordinating dates so they're not on the same weekends as baseball tournaments, because there is a lot of parking in the park, but there's not unlimited parking in the park. And one of the things we struggle with is people parking where they shouldn't, driving over tree roots and, here and there. That's, again, not pickleball group's problem to solve, but a way of managing traffic is to not have baseball and pickleball tournaments at the same time. So I hope that's something that others are aware of. Angela, you are Chamber of Commerce, correct?
Yes, hi, I'm sorry. I'm the president and CEO of the Fitchburg Chamber Visitor and Business Bureau.
Okay, I thought so, and you may have said that and I missed it.
No. So we are the tourism entity for Fitchburg. That's our hat that I'm wearing here tonight.
Okay, and just a question for I'd be interested for the future about how to quantify that the tournaments have brought more revenue. Restaurateurs, hotels, I don't know what you discuss and how you discuss, but that'd be interesting to me for us to learn as a commission what was the aftermath, what was the benefit actually in dollars.
Well, I really appreciate that comment and I appreciate the invitation to do that. I do give a report every year to the community as a whole, but I'd be happy to come and share that same report specifically towards the parks about tourism activity in Dane County and Fitchburg specifically. I'm sure you all, tourism and in particular, we just heard from the governor today, outdoor recreation tourism is a billion-dollar business in the state of Wisconsin, and we want to make sure we capture some of that economic activity in Fitchburg. So, these parks are a real asset. And I would be happy to bring, kind of the visitor expenditure calculators and data that Destination Madison, our regional partner in the area here, has. And as we go through a season, I know there's been a few bumps, but this really will be our first season with the full 12 courts and with the lights and with our partnerships with our local MPAC. So, giving us a couple years here with competitive fees helps us do the work of building the relationships, bringing the tournaments, collecting the data so that our partners in the parks have the information. So I'm happy to come back and do that whenever you like, actually.
Okay, and then shifting gears a little bit, just a question for Eric. The fee is $15. Now that's per court. So 4 people playing on the court are being charged a total of $15, correct?
Per hour, correct.
It's not per person, it's per court.
Correct.
Okay. Is pickleball generally 4 or 2 or both? It's 4. That's what I thought, but I don't play, so okay. That was just something to be clear on. And then I just was also going to note that we, as people start thinking about playing tennis when it's a little warmer, they're going to look at the fees and go, oh my gosh. And so we're going to, I don't know how we're going to handle that, Eric. Good luck. Thanks.
I'm interested in knowing, Eric, how much did the tennis court fees increase? My understanding with this is it was an oversight. So how much are the tennis fees compared to last year?
This is going to be a tough question. I apologize. I didn't draft the fees, so I do not know the actual fees for tennis.
I just was assuming that they all went up. but,
I do know that if they did increase, it was not to the extent that the pickleball courts
Okay.
increased. That I can verify.
well, then maybe it's not going to be the,
We could have a future agenda item of
Yeah.
reviewing of 2026 fees.
That's how I imagine this process going when the fee schedules actually come forward during the budget drafting process. Whether that happened in the past or not, I can't verify, but that's how I would anticipate we would do it in the future is reassess fee schedules at that point.
Everybody else gets a chance to jump back in. I talked with the rec people. They said the tennis court rental was raised to this level for 2026.
Patrick, okay. Heidi, you have a hand up?
Well, yeah, I mean, I was wondering how much other sports fees had gone up as well. It'd be nice to have that information. And I'm also wondering, it went up from $10 to $15. Is that what it was per hour?
For residents,
per
correct?
Correct.
For residents. Okay, so it went up $5 per hour per court. I mean, if we're able to find out what percentage each other sport went up, I would be fully in favor of dropping the fees to match that percentage. But just to going back to 2025 rates, I just think that's going to open up an entire can of worms. If it truly was just an oversight and the fees went up too much, that, you know, maybe they should have gone up, you know, 10% instead of the 50% or whatever it was. Great, then let's drop them down 40% to get them to that 10%. I have no issue with that. But to drop them, just to drop them, I'm just really having an issue with that.
Erin, you had something to add?
Do we want to be welcoming people on the courts? I mean, we're lowering it $5, and I understand both sides, but is it worth charging an extra $5 to deter people using this new resource that we have? Our parks are our greatest asset. And so I'm at a loss for words at the moment. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll just add what Christopher Peguero.
Well, I mean, I'm not saying free. I mean, what I think that $10 per hour does, it ensures that somebody who reserves the court is there. And so if somebody can't use the court, the city is still getting $10 for the court. And this is, our parks are our greatest asset. And so to be having this conversation over $5 compared to other court schedule or fee schedule, it seems really inhospitable if we don't revert for the short period of time to 2025 rates, and then when the next fee schedule that we discuss, we really look at it thoughtfully.
I don't think hospitable is a kind word. I think we're just looking at it fiscally. It has nothing to do with not being welcoming or not wanting people to play on the courts. Of course we do. And you're right, our parks are beautiful. And they're all very inviting. It's just a matter of when you open a fiscal can of worms, every worm that's there is going to try to climb out. And that's just what we're trying to avoid, is opening that can of worms. That's all.
All right, I'm going to just add what Chris Peguero sent us, and that was that he was in favor of reverting the fees to 2025, particularly in light of the fact that they aligned with Sun Prairie's rates, especially how it relates to tournaments. So with that, I think we're going to button this up and call for a vote. So we have a motion and a second. So all those in favor of R4726, amending the 2026 fee schedule, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay?
Nay.
One opposed, motion carries. All right, thank you, everybody, for your discussion on that. Moving on to item 5C. I have nobody registered to speak, so this is Resolution R5126, approving the EV station site host agreement for Charge Up Dane County. So, Eric, you had a little bit of background on that before we dive into approving that or voting on that resolution?
Yep, absolutely. So Phil, our sustainability specialist, was working with the Dane County, let's see here, Office of Energy and Climate Change City of Fitchburg received one viable option, or McKee Farms was selected as a viable option to receive EV charging stations based on a metrics of their determination. Seemed like they prioritized multifamily housing, high-density housing areas, and underserved areas. Again, that was a metric that was determined by Dane County itself. But based on his calculations, there are approximately 1,500 electric vehicles registered in the city of Fitchburg. Makes up about 5% or a little over of the total vehicle population. Currently, there are 260 parking stalls in all of McKee Farms Park, 75 spaces being in the main parking stall. What this proposal is on the northeast side of the main parking lot by the shelter to take 5 parking stalls, of which would be turned into 4 electric vehicle charging stations near the B-cycle area. All of the costs associated for the installation of these and implementation would be at the cost of this grant covered by Dane County for the first 5 years of operation. Any cost beyond that 5 years would be the responsibility of the city. At that point, the city can determine if this is a feature we want to retain to use. We can also assess fee structures for collecting fees for charging to cover any operation and maintenance costs for those chargers. But currently what's being discussed tonight is whether these charging stations are approved to be at McKee Farms Park or not. The other viable option that City of Fitchburg, or not City of Fitchburg, but Dane County determined was viable in City of Fitchburg was Hostahochee. At the time of submitting of this application, Hostahochee was not yet completed, and we did determine that due to the 20-some parking stalls of Hostahochee, we would not as easily be able to accommodate 5 dedicated electric vehicle charging stations at the existing parking lot. So McKee Farms, by default, was the viable option that remained in Fitchburg. Sorry for the long-winded there. I'm reciting a lot of stuff from Phil, our sustainability specialist. He's definitely the brains behind this operation and an expert on it. If there are questions, please let me know. One of the options that I'm considering, if there is an issue or potential reservation on passing this due to losing 5 parking stalls in that parking lot for designated electric vehicle use, my option or proposal would be to move the dumpsters, which are on the northwest side of the parking lot, which for my approximation take up about 4 stalls. We could remove those from that parking area to a different location as an option. So I just wanted to introduce that before we started some discussion on it.
All right, thank you very much.
Yeah, I guess my question on that is
just before you dive in there, we need to have a motion first, and then we can go into council or to commission discussion. So does anybody have a motion for this resolution?
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
All right. With that, take it away. You had a question.
Yeah, I mean, from what I read in this thing, it just is essentially a contract that they're giving us. And I'm assuming somebody in legal or whatever looked at this thing, right? It has a 5-year term, she said, right? Relative to it. Where are we in the process? Because I know there's federal approval. At the end of the day, Dane County's got to go to the feds because they're giving the money.
You're correct.
So
where we are right now, this is the preliminary approval of this application saying what we're specifically looking at tonight, is there going to be a park impact, or are we approving electric vehicle charging stations as per this grant to be within the park? What will follow with this would be associated easements, legal drafting, all that official agreement language would be drafted in collaboration with city staff as well as Dane County. So where we're at right now is just preliminary before we start delving into those resources to determine it. Is this really a viable option? Is this what we want to pursue under the parameters of this grant? That's where it's being discussed tonight. Now, in regards to the federal ruling on this, I can't speak one way or the other. It depends. I know it was around, it was several $1 million that was received from the federal government to Dane County. My expectation is that they are trying to move these forward as soon as possible before there are any federal level legal changes at this point. But at this point, we don't have easements or anything else like that drafted until we go through this initial process.
So the feds still have to review it. They can say no.
No, this money is allocated to Dane County.
The money's allocated, but there's a approval process. So the federal, when you get this approved, the county has to go to the federal government. The federal government sends out somebody to look at the site, and then they decide whether they're going to fund it or not.
My understanding is that this has already been allocated and assessed for funding.
So what we're voting on today is this. We're going to say this contract, we can put this in the park, and all the funding and everything is taken care of. It's not going to cost us.
That is correct. Yep, this isn't going to cost nothing to the city. Now, I want to say that as a caveat, any costs associated beyond this 5-year contract would be at the cost of the city. Like I said, some of those cost mitigation methods would be the rate at what we charge, as long as it's fair market rates and everything. The assumption would be that any rates the city receives for use of the charging stations would go into the long-term maintenance associated with it. Or at that point, we could determine to abandon them if it's not a feature we want to retain in the parks at no cost to us.
All right, any other questions? Dave?
I think I understood what you're saying, but people using them would pay for the electricity.
You're correct, yep.
Okay.
So the city is not paying free use of this electricity. The person who would actually plug in their vehicle, they are paying a rate for this. The assumption here is that what we would receive as the city is just to cover the cost of the electric.
It's pretty straightforward, but I suspect we'll end up putting the foundations in ourselves, like the e-bikes, that there's always some fee that we're paying. But I'll make a different point. So Phil mentioned 1,500 vehicles electric in the city. The vast majority are owned by homeowners, have garages that can charge them themselves. This would be helping people, and EVs that are in multi-unit, that don't have garages or things like that. I think it would make more sense for a private business like Quick Trip or places like that to put charging stations than cities putting them in. But that's my view. I'm not anti-electric car.
I will say there are 2 other locations that also received the grant funding for this, not just the city of Fitchburg as an entity. I believe one was an apartment complex and one, I believe, was an additional grocery store. I'm not sure exactly which those are, but there are other ones within the city of Fitchburg that will be installed in this grant, not just under the ownership or direction of the city. This would be the only publicly or truly publicly accessible one on public property. Yep, correct. Yep, Sam's correct.
The Greenway Cross Apartments. Okay. So those are the 3 that were listed in Fitchburg on that really, really, really hard to read map.
Thank you, Eric.
Yep, thanks for clarifying, Sam.
Yep.
Heidi?
Hi, just 2 quick questions. Number 1, do we know approximately what it will cost the city for maintenance and all of that after the 5 years per year? And the second question is, how was McKee Park chosen? Thank you.
I can't speak as to the reasoning was behind the metrics from Dane County is they were specifically looking at underserved. I'm not sure how they qualify or quantify underserved. It would be their metric that they determine. And they were also looking at high population density for multifamily housing. The way that they looked at this is there was an area around each of those qualifying factors, specifically the areas that overlapped those 2 user groups is what they were looking at for areas that would qualify. Now, regarding those metrics, like I said, what determines underserved, what determines high density, that would be up to Dane County's discretion and their determination. What we know is that we did qualify. McKee Farms Park meets that geographical area where those 2 user groups overlay. Therefore, it qualifies to receive these charging stations. Now, regarding the maintenance for them, this was a little bit difficult. I don't have the exact numbers for them. I had some of the same questions because there's a lot of variations and differences. Let's say we needed to update these stations. Let's say we needed to replace. My understanding is it's not that common to do a full replacement for it. Where I get less reservations on this is, let's say it is at an astronomical cost. We as a city are not obligated beyond the 5 years to pursue that maintenance or renovations if at that point it's an extraordinary cost.
Plus, after 5 years, who knows what the technology will be.
It's
a level 2 charger now, which means you have to sit there for 4 hours.
So my thought was initially as well, are we signing, in 6 years, is it going to cost $200,000 to replace these? I don't know. What I do like about this is in the event that occurs, we are not obligated to retain these or repair them at that point. So it doesn't bind us after that 5 years.
Heidi, you can figure out that you can get your questions answered by just going to the Dane County website for this program, and it tells you everything you don't want to know and more. But it goes through and the goofy thing is the dividing line in McKee Farms Park is right in half. So I was kind of going, okay, there's a poverty section of McKee Farms Park on the east side, and on the west side it's okay. Anyway, there's a map that tells you everything. It shows the low income areas, and then also there's some race components to it as well. But everything is in there.
Okay, thank you. I'll check it out. Thank you.
Yep.
All right, any other questions? Okay, go ahead, Sue.
Yeah, I had a lot of questions and put Eric and Phil through their paces with a lot of questions I had before the meeting, and so thank you for providing all of those. And I was stating then that it gives me heartburn to lose parking spaces. I just don't know if, and I appreciate the remark about the moving a dumpster, and it ends up sounding petty, but there are these big events, and when you go there to see the big events, as soon as all the parking spaces full, people are parking on the grass, underneath the trees, driving over the routes. And so this would mean there'd be 5 more cars driving where they don't belong, which isn't that big a deal when you look at it from a certain perspective. But the question I have about retaining this location as the park is, let's say a person does go there in the evening, and what they're going to do is leave the car there overnight, because that's just how they're going to do it. Would you get more business, overnight business, utilizing the chargers if they were in McKee Parks but still closer to the entrance road? Is that Brendan Drive?
We discussed a couple different options within the park itself. This one was the most viable just because of the access to the actual substation or the electrical connections that are there near to the shelter. So if we were to pursue another area, it would be a substantial amount of horizontal drilling and stuff like that. Now, again, this is not something we're paying for, but it's something that we may have to have sidewalk replacements or something like that. Or this was to be the lowest impact installation area within the park as well. Now, to your question regarding length of charging as well, I kind of had the same conversation. We will have a section in here, a notification. It would be planned that these chargers would not be accessible beyond park hours to hopefully mitigate some long-term charging or long-term stays. Just the fact that you are plugged in does not omit you from the park closure hour regulations, so they would be enforced after hours parking just like anything else with the police department. So I just wanted to make that clarifying point as well.
There are charging stations around.
Yeah, I know, but that makes me think about, this is 4 in one location, and now we're saying, and I appreciate why that would be, but now we're saying you can't use it overnight, or you can't come in if you work second shift and get home at 11. You can't drive it there and plug in your car. So
where we really see this, if I may add, so
Sure.
Phil and I had a lot of discussion on this as well. Where we really see this is park visitors taking the opportunity to charge their vehicle, I mean, granted, people can use it for that intent. They can charge there all day if they wanted to and still pay the rate. But the intent really is to service those park goers who are at the park for other means. And Phil brought an interesting point as well that I didn't consider. Perhaps this would increase park visitation because there is an electric vehicle charger. Maybe someone who wouldn't go to McKee chooses to go to McKee because they can charge their car there. That's not something that I considered or thought about. I'm not an expert with electric vehicles by any means. This is the first time I've had this conversation regarding it, but that was an interesting point to be made, that perhaps someone would take the time to travel there. Now, in regards to those large-scale events, in discussing those vehicle numbers with Phil too, it can be expected or anticipated at least that out of those 260 parking stalls, let's say the park is at full capacity for Festa Italia, for concerts at McKee, when it is at capacity, it can be assumed that at least four vehicles would be that of electric.
Yeah, right. And yeah, I'm just taken aback by the idea that we wouldn't put them somewhere. If they could, if the federal or state program, or the way the county's administering, is paying for the infrastructure, why don't we put it in McKee, close to the entrance to McKee, so that people can use it overnight, and then as the police make their rounds or people feel more secure, and then it's getting 24-hour use instead of money going to it, and then it's restricted from 24-hour use. And that's not something we settle here tonight anyway, but that's what I think would be better serving the community, especially because one of the qualifiers is the multifamily that is around there. There are some apartment buildings. And again, I used to work second shift. I know what it's like to come home at 11 o'clock and have to take care of all your business. And one of them might be for someone plugging in their car somewhere. So that's it.
All right. I'm not seeing any more hands up, so I think I do see a hand up.
Kind of workshopping your idea, Sue. Last month we approved, I think, a bus kind of just place to stop.
That was a bus charging station
The
for
bus
Madison
charging
Metro.
station. Would there be a possibility to put this station there as well? To Sue's point, have it accessible 24 hours a day?
Good question. It was not discussed at this point. I don't believe that we would have the capacity to put it that location because it's specifically for Madison Metro. It's not intended for public use at that location, so it's just for charging those Metro-owned buses. We were looking at this both as an area to reduce the amount of intrusion that it has to the park itself and still allowing it to be accessible. I think you do make a very good point. Perhaps we change the use of it to allow overnight parking. It wasn't discussed. We were looking to do this as minimally as impactful as possible to the park so that we didn't want to deviate from park closure hours and such like that. So that is a point that we didn't discuss. But I would agree that in regards to the location, I do think it does make sense to have it next to the B-cycle stations, other electrical implements. We would be able to use the same utility run or a couple off of that same utility run to that substation within McKee. So it just made sense for me and some of the other staff to consolidate it on the northeast side, similar to those other locations for B-cycle. It's also like location identification. I also don't want to install a ton of signs anywhere as well. If we're going to be consolidating all of our electric fixtures, being our bicycles and our vehicle charging stations, it just made sense to me to consolidate them in one area.
Is there any advantage to having one of those transformers somewhere else in the park for future use or something else?
It may be.
I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there. Anyway.
All right. So understanding that some of the particulars of this can be worked out later, and this is approving this agreement, we have a motion and a second. I think we are ready to vote on it. So all those in favor of R 5126, say aye.
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 Any opposed? None opposed. Motion carries. All right, item 5D, this is Resolution 6226, approving a budget amendment for 2025 capital budget overage for parks improvements.
One of our duties as staff is to make sure if there are any overages in a previous year fiscal budget to make sure that they are either covered through budget amendments or they are absolved by operational costs. We try to avoid absorbing them from operational costs and use any previous year's existing funds. What this project is during the Southdale Park playground installation or renovation in 2025, that project was budgeted for $115,000. The extent of that $150,000 was specifically allocated for the contract services for Lee Recreation to install and purchase that equipment at Southdale. What was not budgeted at that time was the associated costs for base course work of which staff performed, but this was the materials for landscape renovations. Base course, if you're not familiar, it's the various stages of compacted material and gravel underneath the actual playground surfacing. So those costs, those material costs, were not factored in for that initial budget amendment in Southdale, which therefore created a near $9,000 overage in that specific account. So what we were trying to do with this budget amendment is use some of the town of Madison absolved funds that the city of Fitchburg took ownership of when they took ownership of this property to coverage this overage. So it was something that those materials just were not specifically budgeted for in the initial budget amendment.
All right, thank you. Motion on R6226.
I'll move approval.
And a second?
I'll second it.
All right, do we have any additional discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed say nay. None opposed, motion carries. All right, we have no communication items on this agenda. We did receive the staff reports and updates. Anything you wanted to add to those, Eric?
I just want to highlight a few things. I always try to highlight at least one item in each area, just so staff, if they have been working diligently on something, we at least highlight it within the meeting. Staff have done a fantastic job in tree removals. At this point, they have switched the efforts to stump grinding. The weather conditions have allowed them to do that. Normally this time of year, everything is snow on the terraces, so we can't perform stump grinding. With the conditions here, they're able to get a really fantastic head start on it. So they've been moving very well on that. They have well over or near 50 stumps that are ground with just a few remaining. Within forestry, we are going through the final edits and drafts for the Strategic Urban Forestry Management Plan. We will be seeing that referred out again for the final review of that at Tree Advisory Committee, Parks Commission, and then finally Council. Anna's been working diligently on getting the planting specifics in and bids getting ready for the 2026 planting season this spring. And she also did facilitate the remainder of the ash tree removal contract, of which will be moving forward once the budget rollovers are approved at the end of this month. So that contract would move forward for the remaining ash tree removals within the city, hopefully early April. I did attend the WPRA conference. That's Wisconsin Parks and Recreation Association. What was nice and that I think will pertain to a lot of conversations we have moving forward with the development of a Friends of Fitchburg Parks program is there were specific sessions that were tailored towards the development of a Friends of Fitchburg Park, mostly through Waukesha County Parks Department has been a very worthwhile drafter of a plan for friend systems within their parks. So that's an entity that I plan to work forward and get some of their input and opinions on this. But that connection was made at the WPRA conference, so it was nice to have that. And I thought it was very applicable timing. Southdale concepts we've been working on quite a bit as well. I suppose this kind of rolls into future agenda items, but that is something that we have been working on is reviewing the updated concepts for Southdale Park renovations.
Very good. Thank you.
Just want to say thanks for that report. It's very informative, to see what you guys are.
I try to keep it brief without too much in it.
No, I think it was perfect.
It's a happy medium. Yeah.
Yeah, I really liked it. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, all right. Item 8, future agenda items. You just mentioned the Southdale Park. We also mentioned a future review of 2026 rental fees. Announcements. Our next meeting is April 2nd. And then we can adjourn if anybody wants to make that motion.
I move for adjournment.
Second.
I'll second it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously. And it is 7:22. Good night, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Heidi.
Good night. Have a good night.